Imagine this. You are at the pinnacle of your career, working for one of the globe's most respected news organizations. Every phrase you utter, every article you pen, every tweet you send out, scrutinized by millions. Your reputation, painstakingly built over decades, can be undone in a single, impulsive moment. This is not a hypothetical. It is the reality that befell Terry Moran, a veteran journalist who spent more than 2 decades with ABC News, earning a reputation for fearless reporting and nuanced analysis. His story is now at the heart of a worldwide debate about what truth, objectivity, and freedom of speech really mean in our hyper-connected digital age. Let's rewind and set the scene. The relationship between journalists and the public has fundamentally changed over the last 2 decades. Where once the byline was the only window into a reporter's soul, today, every journalist is expected to be a brand, sharing thoughts, insights, and sometimes deeply personal opinions across social media. For over 20 years, Terry Moran was the consummate professional. His reporting from conflict zones and political battlegrounds shaped how audiences understood the world. Colleagues admired him, viewers trusted him. But on the morning of June 8th, everything changed. In a late-night tweet, Moran called President Donald Trump and his advisor Stephen Miller world-class haters. The post was raw, emotional, and, in the eyes of many, crossed an invisible line. ABC News, upholding its policy on objectivity, responded with swiftness and severity. First, Moran was suspended. Days later, his contract was terminated. An official statement followed, emphasizing ABC's commitment to the highest standards of objectivity, fairness, and professionalism. The message was crystal clear. Impartiality is the bedrock of their journalistic mission, even if it means suppressing personal beliefs. But is the issue as clear-cut as it seems? Social media has become an extension of a journalist's identity. It's a platform not just for sharing headlines, but for engaging with audiences, building trust, and sometimes even challenging powerful institutions. Many experts argue that this connection is essential in the 21st century. Kelly McBride of the Poynter Institute puts it this way: clear, consistently enforced policies are essential for trust and credibility, but they must be narrowly tailored to avoid stifling legitimate expression. Yet there's a flip side. Critics argue that restrictive policies have a chilling effect, muzzling journalists and discouraging them from taking part in crucial public conversations or exposing injustice. Jane Kirtley from the University of Minnesota warns, restrictions on personal expression should be carefully scrutinized to ensure they are not overly broad or discriminatory. The debate is not just philosophical, it is also legal and ethical, touching on constitutional rights, employment law, and the very definition of journalistic integrity. The pressure on newsrooms is immense. In our era of instant outrage, a single controversial post can trigger a public relations crisis within minutes. News organizations face a nearly impossible balancing act, upholding public trust while respecting the individual rights of their employees. And the situation is only getting more complex. The rise of artificial intelligence-powered monitoring tools means journalists' online activity can now be tracked in real time, flagging potentially problematic posts within seconds. This raises fresh questions. Will these digital gatekeepers lead to more consistent standards, or will they strip away the human judgment necessary for nuanced decision-making? The Terry Moran case is far from isolated. In recent years, dozens of journalists, both in the United States and abroad, have faced suspension or termination over social media posts deemed unprofessional or biased. In the United Kingdom, the BBC faced intense backlash after suspending a sports broadcaster for a tweet criticizing government policy. In Canada, a major newspaper let go of a columnist after her social media activity was deemed inconsistent with their editorial standards. Each case reignites the same debate. Where should the line be drawn between personal expression and professional responsibility? The consequences of these decisions reach far beyond the individuals involved. A confidential industry survey conducted last year revealed that nearly 3/4 of working journalists feel pressured to self-censor online, even outside regular work hours, out of fear for their careers. This silent tension is shaping the news you consume every day. What perspectives are being suppressed? What conversations are not happening? The result is a media landscape that risks becoming less diverse, less vibrant, and ultimately less trustworthy. From a legal perspective, the future looks especially uncertain. Courts are now being asked to weigh First Amendment rights against the interests of news organizations in maintaining professionalism and public trust. Roy Gutterman of Syracuse University predicts that landmark cases in the coming years will define the boundaries of permissible restriction. Employers must also ensure that their policies comply with labor laws, avoiding any actions that could be seen as retaliatory or discriminatory. The stakes are high. The outcome of these legal battles could reshape not only newsroom culture, but the very relationship between journalists and the public. But what about solutions? Some experts argue that the answer is not to demand robotic neutrality from every journalist, but to embrace a new standard: transparency. The SPJ Code of Ethics, a guiding document for the profession, encourages journalists to be transparent about affiliations and to avoid conflicts of interest. By openly disclosing their viewpoints or relationships, journalists might actually strengthen their credibility, provided audiences perceive honesty rather than hidden agendas. An unnamed media ethicist, writing in a 2025 report, suggests that in the digital age, transparency and disclosure are even more important than strict neutrality. This approach could mark a paradigm shift where openness becomes the new benchmark for integrity. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine a journalist reporting on climate change who has previously participated in environmental activism. If the journalist acknowledges this background and explains how it informs their perspective, viewers are empowered to understand potential biases and make more informed judgments. This model does not eliminate the need for objectivity, but it recognizes the reality that true neutrality is often elusive, especially in an age where every person brings their own experiences and values to the table. Of course, there are risks. If news organizations swing too far toward permissiveness, they may lose the fragile trust of their audiences, especially in an era marked by polarization and accusations of fake news. Kelly McBride warns, if the public begins to doubt our objectivity, the consequences could be disastrous for democracy. The challenge, then, is to craft clear, consistent policies that protect both journalistic integrity and the right to free expression. The tools for doing so are evolving rapidly. Some media companies are now using artificial intelligence to monitor staff social media activity around the clock. While this can help identify problematic content quickly, there are concerns about privacy and the potential for overreach. Will journalists feel like they are constantly under surveillance, unable to express themselves even in personal spaces? Or could these tools enable fairer, more consistent enforcement of policies? Looking ahead, media organizations are experimenting with hybrid approaches. Some now distinguish clearly between reporting, opinion, and analysis on their platforms. Others offer training sessions to help journalists understand the risks and responsibilities of online engagement. A growing number encourage staff to maintain separate personal and professional accounts, though even this solution is far from foolproof. The boundaries between private and public life have never been blurrier. For viewers and news consumers, these developments carry important lessons. In a world where even the most experienced reporters can lose their jobs over a single tweet, media literacy is more critical than ever. When you read the news, do not just focus on the headline. Consider who is delivering the story. What are the journalists' values and affiliations? How might their experiences shape their reporting? As a proactive step, consider supporting outlets and journalists who are transparent about their processes and committed to fairness. Subscribing to newsletters or platforms that clearly distinguish between reporting and opinion can help you navigate the complex media landscape. If you are a journalist, or aspire to be one, the message is equally clear. Know your employer's policies inside and out, but also reflect on your own ethical boundaries. The era of hiding behind a byline is over. Every social media post, every public comment is part of your professional reputation. Personal branding is now inseparable from professional identity. The choices you make online can define your career trajectory for years to come. Let's not forget the broader stakes. The credibility of journalism is, in many ways, the foundation of democracy. When the public loses trust in the press, the ability to hold power to account is weakened. Yet, if journalists are forced into silence, we risk losing important voices and perspectives. The path forward will require nuance, flexibility, and ongoing dialogue among journalists, employers, legal experts, and most importantly, the public. So, as the dust settles from Terry Moran's dramatic exit, the biggest questions remain. Who gets to decide where the line is drawn between free speech and professionalism? Can a journalist who shares personal views on social media ever be seen as truly objective? Or are news organizations clinging to outdated ideals in a world where transparency and engagement matter more than ever? Here's a final thought. The digital revolution has made every journalist's voice louder, but also more vulnerable. In the end, the solution may not be a one-size-fits-all policy, but a culture of mutual respect, trust, and accountability. As newsrooms, courts, and audiences debate these issues, your role as a consumer, a critic, or a creator has never been more important. What do you think? Should journalists be free to speak their minds, or does impartiality matter above all? Join the conversation in the comments below. Your perspective helps shape the future of the media. And if you found this deep dive insightful, don't forget to subscribe for more stories.